週一長談同大家深入時事話題，而家翻嚟下半段同大家繼續傾下。到底我哋好多公營機構佢哋啲行政人員同埋主管個個啲薪水都係天文數字，但係佢哋嘅表現如何呢？同埋我哋應該睇到嘅就係董事會應該對佢哋有監督嘅作用，但係到底事實上係點樣嘅呢？我哋而家繼續同 Mr. Bateman 繼續傾下。Mr. Bateman 呢係加拿大納稅人聯盟專係為我哋發言，專係為我哋打抱不平嘅。我哋而家睇下佢會點樣去為我哋做。So we talk about the Crown Corporation, which is really a big issue to a lot of citizens, no matter old or new citizens here. The relationship between the board and the executive is a big puzzle, because according to theory or any textbooks tell you is that the board of directors controls.
Yes.
And give directions to the executive. The executive should be scared of them, but in fact, right now what we see is that the board of directors come up to defend the executive, and defend things that is obviously have some big problem, like compacts.
Yeah.
It should be running last year, and now no one is asking. The board of directors never questioned, and they even came out and said that, oh, there are more problems than we thought. What went wrong with this relationship? Because that is the basic, as you say, accountability mechanism.
Yeah, two things have gone wrong. Number one, the board doesn't meet in public. So for all we know, the board may be ripping these executives behind the scenes and really pushing them for answers. We have no idea. I don't think they are, given on the history they've had with each other. So there's this cozy relationship that develops because they're not in the media eye. The second part is the board forgets their number one job. Their number one job isn't to defend the corporation. It's not to make life easier for the executives. It's not to line pockets. Their job is to represent the shareholders. That's what the textbooks tell us in good leadership. Boards of governors, boards of directors represent shareholders. In this case, shareholders of TransLink and Crown Corporations are us, right? The taxpayers, the people who write the check. So it always astounds me when you see mayors do this quite often. They'll come in as firebrands into their new job. They'll be taking the citizens' side, and then a subtle shift happens about midway through their first term or early in their second term, where all of a sudden they start becoming the voice of the establishment.
Yes.
And they actually start explaining, instead of explaining what taxpayers and shareholders want to the executives, they start explaining what the executives want to the taxpayers. And that's where the whole thing breaks down.
And became their spokesperson.
Exactly.
That is
and
what really
defender.
bothers me.
Yeah.
So what is your recommendation on how we can, and what's the position of your organization?
Well, number one, we want to make sure that every Crown Corporation board meets in public. That should be a basic rule. Let us see more about what the internal operations are like. We own it. We deserve to know what's going on. And then second, we want to see more healthy skeptics being appointed to these boards.
Who appoint these board members?
Well, for most Crown corporations, it's the provincial government. But honestly, as taxpayers, we have a responsibility too. I mean, we appoint our mayor and councillors through elections. So, we have no one to blame but ourselves if we don't like the way our municipal hall is running. So we need to make sure that we're constantly pushing and reminding our boards of directors, look, you work for us, not for them. And don't let them off the hook. When they start talking in bureaucratese, as they call it, start talking like these staffers, really push them and say, oh, well, hang on. I don't care what they think. Here's what we, the taxpayers, think.
Politicians.
Yes.
Now we get to that point. It seems that, yes, politicians is always awkward giving themselves a raise. The MLA in British Columbia, they have frozen their salary. But what came out in the public is expense. That is really like an open dark hole. And we can see the recent scandals from Jenny Kwan, Linda Reid, Senators Mike Duffy, the Premier Rafford, and the Premier. They have no problem with other integrities, but they have all problems in filing their expenses. Is that the system or is personal?
Part of it is the system. I mean, very few of these people, Mike Duffy excluded, have actually gone and done something contrary to policy. So Linda Reid's expenses, she defends them saying, well, speakers have done this for generations. And she's not wrong. But what they fail to understand is that our expectations of our politicians have changed. We expect more. We expect something different. And when a lot of these policies started coming into place, Canada was still very much a blue-collar economy, right? You went and worked in the resources, you worked in manufacturing, that sort of thing. But now, more of Canada has white-collar jobs, office jobs, more jobs where you travel on business. And people start to realize, look, my company doesn't pay for me to fly first class. They don't pay for my wife to fly first class with me. They don't put me up in the fanciest hotel and buy me $16 orange juice. This is wrong. Why are these politicians getting perks that go above and beyond? So the expectations have changed on these politicians. The smart ones are reacting to it more quickly. It's the old saying. I mean, when I was in politics, I was reminded early on, don't say anything you don't want to see on the front page of the paper. The new lesson is don't spend anything you don't want to see on the front page of the paper. And if politicians can make that shift in their minds, taxpayers will be a lot better off.
So how do we get it on the front page?
Well, we need disclosure. The best way to stop politicians from spending this money is full disclosure. I mean, the mayor of Toronto, for example, reviled through the nation for his crazy antics and people don't like him and all of that. All of that aside, if I want to go and look how much Rob Ford spent on staples in his office, I can go online through the City of Toronto website and I can take a look at that. Same with Adam Vaughan, any of the councillors, you can do all of that sort of thing. That is missing in so many provincial legislatures. We don't have that in British Columbia. They're just starting to put it in place in Alberta. It's been in place for a while in Nova Scotia. And I'll give you a great example. Nova Scotia discloses expenses. The Premier of Nova Scotia, Stephen McNeil, went to the same funeral for Nelson Mandela as Alison Reid did in Alberta. Alison Redford spent $45,000. Stephen McNeil, the Premier of Nova Scotia, spent $1,000. And Stephen McNeil knew this will be on the front page, so I want to make sure I'm going as frugally as possible. Alison Redford didn't really think about it, took her family, took her assistants, made it into a holiday, flew back special, stayed at the fanciest hotel, all on the taxpayer dime. Today, Stephen McNeil is a young premier in Nova Scotia, rising in popularity and doing some of the right things to turn his province around. Alison Redford is retired, a backbench MLA now, living apparently holidaying again in Palm Springs. So, very different kind of paths. But we're seeing politicians learn their lessons. The smart ones will adapt more quickly.
So not only really all these expenses, not only the politicians, but like Jenny Kwan, the Portland, the hotel societies, transparent and they open up all these accountability is a direction. Is there any specific steps or any legislation that you need to advocate and promote, or and at the same time get the citizens to rally up so that to make this kind of transparency really happens?
Yeah, the transparency needs to happen. For the MLAs, they need to make that decision themselves. For things like charities, we often forget that a lot of us sometimes we think charities are a private corporation and what they do behind their closed doors is up to them. But charities benefit from taxes. You get a tax break for giving them money. And there have been a lot of criticisms, for example, of the First Nations bands because they weren't disclosing their expenses or their wild salaries and they were getting taxpayer money. The same thing should probably be taken over into charities. If you're getting a benefit from taxes, you probably should have a disclosure form that explains how much your CAO is making and how much he expensed or she expensed. That would do a lot to actually start bringing some accountability to that. I should note that we at the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, we're not a charity. We don't take any money from government. We don't take any tax breaks. It's actually written into our constitution. We will never take a dime from government because it would be hypocritical of us to criticize them. So we're supported by...
That would really be a conflict of interest.
Exactly. So we're supported by people who give us money after they've paid their taxes and they don't get a receipt for that donation. That, I think, is a better model for a lot of these organizations to go. It's one we've encouraged even organizations we often agree with, like the Fraser Institute. Quit giving out tax receipts. Change, why are you taking money from government for, a subsidy from government essentially to do your work? Let's let this stand on its own 2 feet. We believe in a free market here in Canada. Let's really operate that way.
Yep, exactly as you said earlier, is that if you don't do anything that will put yourself on the front page because
Exactly.
people are getting more and more, the scrutiny is getting stronger and stronger. But I know your organization is doing your best as advocates and also a lot of petitions, but I think we would like to see more of what you do and how you do it, and also how to get our audience to be involved. So are there any mechanism, any way that you would recommend our audience to go look for and to be more involved, because they might have some good ideas too.
Yeah, and we actually do rely very, very strongly on our supporters who give us ideas. Today, after this interview, I'm actually going and writing an article for an op-ed piece for a future newspaper that actually was based on an idea someone gave me when they wrote in. So if you go to www.taxpayer.com, on the right-hand side, you'll see a little bar that you can put in your email address, and you can join our supporter base and get emails on very important action items. We don't over-email, but when there's a moment where we think that we can bring pressure on the politicians through activating that networking and getting emails to them, we'd act, and it works. Many victories, you can actually see them all on the website, taxpayer.com. We also have, by every province, different issues. So if you live in Nova Scotia or Toronto or Calgary, you can actually go on there and see everything that our Alberta director is doing or our Atlantic director. You can go in and follow along, get to know the issues, sign petitions relevant to those individual provinces.
Ontario and Quebec.
Yes.
Because we have a very strong audience, subscriber base over there. And so today, I thank you very much for coming to share with us, although we have a very long, almost like 30 minutes, but it's never enough to get into more detail on the depth of the issues. But thank you very much for coming. 我哋周一長談今日傾嘅係納稅人嗰啲錢到底去咗邊度？點樣我哋先至可以令到使我哋納稅人錢嘅人更負責任，或者除咗佢哋嘅道德之外，我哋仲希望能夠有一定嘅機制。今日同大家介紹嘅係加拿大納稅人聯盟，頭先我哋已經介紹咗佢哋嘅 website， 希望大家能夠多啲參與，多啲去睇，同埋多啲提供你嘅意見，同埋你認為唔合理、你認為唔公平、唔公道嘅事情，希望大家一齊發聲。雖然呢個網站冚唪唥都係用英文，但係我哋今日第一次請到佢嚟我哋嘅節目，亦都係開始希望佢哋同我哋族裔嘅同埋華語嘅社區能夠多啲聯絡，多啲能夠聽到大家嘅意見。周一長談，今日到此為止，我係黎伯佳，多謝大家。